Picking up reading again from the Great Cosmic Mother chapter, Sun's Victory over the Dark Mother. Tiamat, the formidable Babylonian mother goddess, was the model for the Hebrew Tihomet. Tiamat was mother of the deep, who fashioned all things. She displaced herself as night, truth, and justice. Tahomayat, the Egyptian goddess of truth and justice. Tiamat gave birth to the gods. Then in later patriarchal epic, the gods rebel against her, and she is finally conquered by the sun god Hero Marduk. He had been promised supremacy over the other gods if he did so. He slays her in her form of the great whale dragon, or cosmic serpent. And then she surrenders her own body as building material for the universe. Note that in the original matriarchal creation myths, the Great Mother always sacrifices her body, herself, voluntarily to create the world from her substance. In actively but passively surrendered, the Father God world. Let's start over. In patriarchal myth, the basic idea is maintained, but the Mother God is not actively but passively surrendered. The Father God world is essentially created through male conquest and an act of matricide. Alright, read this. This is what Elizabeth Gold Davis has to say about Tiamat. In Sumerian myth, the creator goddess Tiamat appeared out of the waves of the Etherean Sea, the Persian Gulf, as a fish woman, and taught men the arts of life, to construct cities, to found temples, to compile laws. In short, instructed them in all the things that tend to soften and humanize life. From that time, so universal were her instructions that had nothing to be added. Davis believes Tiamat may have been a matriarchal queen of the Thracian Anatolian remnant of the ancient lost civilization of Atlantis. That she might have sailed down the Euphrates River from Thrace or Anatolia, perhaps circa 9000 BC, in a ship whose figurehead was a mermaid-like creature of many ancient legends, half fish and half woman. Because myth was both a historic record and a psychic gestalt of universal symbols, the line between historic literalism and mythic symbolic interpretation is often blurry, and that's what makes archaeological and linguistic evidence important. Most Near Eastern myths that have come down to us derive from a time when at least part of the matriarch's divine functions had been delegated to her warrior consort. These myths date from 2500 to 1500 BC. The solar hero in all cultures corresponds with the establishment of patriarchal order. And order everywhere means the suppression and negation of the great mother religion. The Greek sun god Apollo represents purification and renewal through the male. The sun bringing light, life, and spring back to the world by killing the python serpent of the mother, represented as the dragon of darkness now, exclusively dark, chaotic, or evil. These are our classic dragon stories. The serpent of chaos is originally and always a woman's body. As the great mother of chaos, of matter still unformed and undifferentiated, she holds the earth like an egg in the pure energy of her coils. She represents the time before the gods, before the establishment of patriarchal hierarchies and distinctions. As the dragon of matter, the undivided one, older than the individuation of forms, she also signified the common flesh and blood bond of the people. This is why the snake dragon everywhere is identified with the indigenous masters of the ground, the matrifocal peasantry who are invaded, conquered, plundered, and co-opted by the dragon slayers of patriarchal history. In Indian myth, the Indo-European sky god Indra comes upon the goddess Danu and her son Virta. The two Dravidian serpent creators are the great cow goddess and her calf. They are described as undivided, bisexual, unawakened, sunk in deepest sleep, outstretched. Indra hurls his phallic lightning and decapitates them. This murder generates the act of creation. Since in the Indo-European view, the dark serpentine Danu and Berta had withheld the waters in the mountain hollows, and so hindered the world from coming into being. The Indo-European patriarchal world, that is, Dahom, Tiamat, Apsu, Danu, Verta were obviously names for the magnetic serpentine spirit of the earth and its underground waters. The bisexual power who was absolute mistress of all chaos before creation. His sacrifice then enables patriarchal creation, i.e. law and order, to appear. It is custom in India, before a single stone is laid in the foundation of a sacred building, for the local astrologer to determine the exact spot of ground which is situated above the head of the snake that supports the world. Construction rites begin with an imitation of Indra smiting the serpent Danu, Verta, in his lair. A wooden peg is driven into the spot to securely peg down the serpent's head. It is said in the Rig Veda 2:12:1, if this snake should ever shake its head violently, it will shake the world to pieces. So, with patriarchy, it is the death of the world snake that supports male world building. But patriarchy needs the serpent energy, which is the subterranean energy that powers all life. Everyone knows the serpent is not really dead, but repressed. And the paranoid, patriarchal obsession with law and order is the necessary mechanism of this repression. This worldwide attack and conquest of the cosmic serpent is called in patriarchal story the victory over the waters, through which emerged stable forms, and the organization of the world, that is, the male political world. The rock of Jerusalem reached deep into the subterranean waters, to home, it was said. The Jerusalem temple is situated directly above her, its holy rock containing the mouth of Tehom. Babylon was built above the gate of Apsu, the serpent waters before creation, Apsu, the other half of Tiamat. Everywhere, this mythic rite of building the holy male city on the conquered body of the mother serpent is enacted as the origin of patriarchy. The sun-worshipping pharaohs of later Egypt slay the dragon, Apollo slays Gaius, Python. The Greek hero Perseus slays the Amazonian Medusa, who is described as three-headed, the triple goddess, with snakes writhing from her three heads. St. George slays the dragon in England. Even St. Patrick must drive the snake from snakeless Ireland. And in Hebrew Genesis, the serpent is doomed by the war of God. The serpent is doomed by the war god Yahweh to be forever the enemy of the human race, to be crushed under our heels, and to give back to us only poison. In Christian prophecy in Revelation 12 through 21, 1, the final extinction of the dragon is promised when a king Messiah kills the watery cosmic snake and then takes away the world throne unchallenged. Wow. And there was no more sea. This event is prefigured in Psalms 74 and 13. Thou breakest the heads of dragons in the waters. The consistency of all these myths is commensurate with their reality. To the ancients, the cosmic serpent, the spirit of earth and water, was everywhere known as the energy source of life, of healing and oracular powers, fertility, and maternal blessing. This energy spirit, with emerging patriarchy, was redefined as a dangerous enemy to be reviled, defeated, and destroyed. Then it was said by the new holy men that chaos has been ordered and the serpent force has been mastered. And what was to be the new source of world energy? Okay, so that's a question. And what was to be the new source of world energy? Slave labor, military force, the rule of the fist, threats of punishment and coercion by fire-breathing, guilt-mongering male priesthoods in service to the god of war and wealth. In Babylon, the combat between the god hero Marduk and the great sea dragon Tiamat was ceremonially reenacted every new year. Marduk's victory was celebrated by the priests as an end to chaos and darkness. Marduk creates the cosmos again and the torn fragments of Tiamat's body, and he creates man from the blood of the demon Kingu, to whom Tiamat had entrusted the tablets of destiny. May he continue to conquer Tiamat and shorten her days, exclaimed the celebrants. The cosmic combat, the hero's victory, and the new creation were imagined to take place at the same moment every new year. The chaos and darkness conquered by Marduk had clear social class implications. In Mircea Eliade's words, the slain body of Tiamat symbolized universal confusion, the abolition of order and hierarchy, orgy, chaos. According to the 4th century BC historian Berosus of Babylon, where Tiamat prevailed, the slaves became the masters, and all power of rank was abolished. Probably the ancient moon rites were still celebrated on the last 12 days, surrounded the last moonless nights of the year. These days were sacred to the dark moon, full of oracular power, before the birth of the New Year's new moon. And these last days were described as pre-creation chaos. The laws of time were suspended. Hecate roamed the black countryside. The dead rose up and came to the living in hope of a new birth. Orgiastic rites were held. Then, with the appearance of the new moon, the recreation of the world magically occurred. New fires were lit. The earth and her cycles were reaffirmed. First fruit ceremonies took place, and the people sought prevention of sorrows and diseases for the coming year. The god hero New Year celebrations were simply overlaid on these ancient rites. In the most ancient times, goddess shrines were in groves, by sacred wells, in caves, on mountaintops. During the megalithic, large stone chambers were built over blind springs, and the builders consulted astronomical and earth forces to understand their ever-changing currents. With the building of huge cities and enormous solar temples, architects were attempting to fix and permanently control the flow of the earth current. Okay, I think I should reread that sentence. With the building of huge cities and enormous solar temples, architects were attempting to fix and permanently control the flow of the earth current. In Babylon and Egypt, patriarchy built vast, rigid monuments to the god kings in urban centers where excess grain and other products extracted from the countryside and taxes were piled up to the greatest power and glory of the ruling priesthoods. I'm sorry. No, that's right. No longer sensitive to the earth's spiritual energies. Wow. These priesthoods were no longer themselves channels of real cosmic and terrestrial power. Instead, they resorted to conscious, deliberate manipulations of human fears, more and more frantic invocations, and bloody mass sacrifices to no avail. The real spirit was wandering elsewhere, but the buildings became more grandiose, imposing, and expensive. One thing the patriarchal orders of all times and places have in common: huge and square-cut blocks of stone that no longer have spiritual resonance or healing power for the human psyche. The cosmic serpent no longer lives in these stones, these rock metropolises. Iron Age or modern, only secular ambition lives there. The ancients warned that attempts to direct and fix the earth force for selfish gain are doomed. Earth energies, artificially trapped to serve the special interests of the ruling class of men, create the tension field, the anxiety grid of modern life. Like a fault stress in the earth or a great serpent underground, something seems about to recoil and unleash terrific energy. The spirit will always break loose and take its own path once again. In the chapter of Sun's victory over the Dark Mother from the Great Cosmic Mother. I'll see you next time.